This is the presidential auction, 2013. John McGinnis Auctioneers here in Amesbury, conducting the estate of David Powers, who was originally from Charlestown, Massachusetts. He was the special assistant to the President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. So we have his estate here today, which encompasses his career with the Kennedys, and the auction starts in the early years of Kennedy with photography and various items in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way through in the post years in the following Kennedy's death.
So Dave Powers was a personal friend of John F. Kennedy.
Dave Powers first met John Fitzgerald Kennedy when John Kennedy, before he ran for Congress, knocked on his door in Charlestown, Massachusetts in the late 40s and said, "I understand you're a person I should meet to help run our campaign and be on our team." And from that night on, that was at 9 o'clock at night, they formed a relationship that went on to the day he was assassinated. He was in the motorcade in the car behind the president when he was shot. Dave Powers gave his life to the Kennedy family. He was dedicated. He was at his side throughout his entire political career. It was a very, very, very close bond relationship throughout the career. And this auction represents the appreciation, the love, and the closeness of his entire career with the Kennedy family. It's riveting to look at some of the notes and the letters from Jackie. On one table alone, there's over 60 letters from Jacqueline Kennedy to Dave Powers. There is an award. It was a gag birthday gift given from Jack Kennedy in 1963 in the White House as a birthday gift, and it was labeled the Heineken Award. And it was an award for all the steps he took to his icebox to drink the president's Heinekens. And there's a picture of them giving him the award in the White House. This shows you the closeness to the family that he had. So anyways, it's a wonderful auction. There's something here for everybody. If you want to buy something for $100 or something for $10,000, or his Air Force One jacket, which is estimated at $20,000 to $40,000, people can go on live, go on our website at mckinnisauctions.com. You can view the entire catalog. It's all online. The catalog will be available even after the auction. It's already becoming a collector's piece. And good luck.
John, this is gaining international attention. I think I saw on the paper there was somebody from Russia here.
We had a magazine here yesterday from Paris. We had 2 Russian news stations here filming for coverage in Russia. We've been written up in Germany. The Irish Times has wrote a big article in Ireland. We just came out. They just did 4 pages in this week's issue of People's Magazine on the auction. The auction has been labeled Camelot, not by us. We're selling the estate of David Powers. But this is the first collection of items that have come out in years that shows so much closeness to the president. And that's what people are doing. The people that lived through those years of the early 60s, that it was such a tragic time for everybody in the country. The youngest president ever voted in, first Irish Catholic president. This has touched so many hearts, that tragic years. And this is 50 years that he's been assassinated. So we've been very lucky to have this auction and been hired by the family to conduct the auction. And it's a very important estate to have, and it's going to be held right here in Amesbury, Mass. And the seats are selling out. There's not many seats left after today. But I'm sure there'll be standing room only if people want to come throughout the day just to see the event. But you can also watch it live online if you go on our website.
That's a Cabinet 21. I work for John McGinnis Auctioneers.
I'm with Charles Hamilton at the JFK auction. The interest in this is amazing. It's all over the world.
International, yes. We interviewed people from Russia, France,
How many items are there altogether?
723 items.
720. And these are things that actually haven't been seen by anybody before this.
Right. These were found in the estate of David Powers.
He was, I was talking to John. I think he was pretty much his most close personal friend.
Yeah, Dave Powers was Jack Kennedy's personal friend, President Kennedy's closest friend, with him almost every minute of every day.
Now, what do you think the Russian TV was filming? I think because of the interest during the Cold War that the Russia.
Well, also the Cuban missile crisis, when he signed that pact, which is right over there.
It's the 50th anniversary too this year of JFK's assassination. So I think. Now, has the Kennedy family expressed any interest in anything? Or?
They've been here and looked at everything.
They have. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure they did it privately and everything, but yeah.
Well, the whole thing is like a history lesson. Before he was president to his assassination. America's most beloved president.
Now, he took a lot of the pictures. Dave took a lot of the pictures himself, didn't he? The actual pictures?
One of the pictures he took, but a lot of them were professionally took, where Dan Meter, who I think you interviewed, he's read and looked at every single picture and authenticated it. Taken a long time to do it.
Yeah, because I think I read that Dave was quoted as saying he ran out of film the day that the president was assassinated. That he took pictures that day, but he ran out of film or something just before.
Skip the life fandango, turn cartwheels across the floor. I was feeling kinda seasick. The crowd called out for more. The room was humming harder. The ceiling flew away. When we called out for another drink, but the waiter brought a tray, and so it was later as the miller told his tale. Her face at first just ghostly, turn a wider shade of pale.
With Dan Meter at the JFK auction at McInnes in Amesbury. I've seen you all over the news, Dan. I mean, last night I think you were on 10 different channels, and you're pretty much running the whole auction, correct?
Well, I've worked on it for the last 5 months. It's been quite an adventure, quite a feat. We have had great response from the media, and it's all coming to fruition actually tomorrow. And we have the collection of David Powers. He was the president's best friend from 1946 right up to the day in Dallas that he was assassinated, when the president was assassinated.
Other auction houses, I'm sure, were competing for this auction. Now, how did you guys actually get it?
It was just a call like any other. We're here in Amesbury, and we get a lot of calls. We do a lot of auctions here. But this one was a call that came in from an estate. They said they had an estate that they needed to clean out, and it had some JFK items in it. So we took it just like any other call, and it actually was a couple weeks before we even could respond because we had a lot of things going on. Then when we found out that it was the estate of Dave Powers, it all became real. And we started to look through the things, and I was there on my hands and knees going through the things in the house and finding the things in the drawers and the boxes, the briefcases, and it just was overwhelming. There were thousands of items. Dave was the curator for the JFK Library in Boston, and he held that position for 30 years, retiring in 1994. He was the first curator, and the family had thought that these things were all donated to the libraries because he had donated so many things in the past. He had donated thousands of things. So these things were in drawers, in bookcases. They were going to be selling the family home, moving into smaller quarters, and that's how it was discovered. You know, they knew the things that were hanging on the walls, the things that were out on display, but most of the things that we have here are things that were in drawers, briefcases, and boxes, and not out on display. And that's the catalyst. That's what brought us the sale. And there was a number of auction houses that competed again for this consignment, and including all the major houses in New York, major auction houses. And they selected us because we were local and we would be able to handle things in a different manner and be able to tell the whole story and not just call the best things. We would take everything and make the whole auction tell a story and make each lot tell a story.
Yeah, I know it's the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination.
Yeah.
The interest is not...
Well, that's what's mind-boggling. When you look at how much time has passed, and here we are 50 years later, we have set up a display here that people can come in and view, and the emotions that come out, the tears that come out, it's still there, it's still prevalent. We have had a lot of people that come in, especially even from the Haverhill area. Some of the reporters and things of the day that were at specific events when President Kennedy was in town and he was doing campaigning and stopping at Haverhill Trade School and those kind of things. We've heard a lot of reflections and tears come out. And I think that everyone remembers, even if they weren't alive, going in being educated in Massachusetts in our area, learning about what happened and knowing that there was a wife and two small children left behind and the feelings that went along with that. And this auction brings that all out. Dave was the president's best friend. He had two best friends, Bobby Kennedy and Dave Powers. Dave was the closest person to the children other than Jack Kennedy as a male figure. Jackie actually had Dave come to her house every day at noontime after the assassination and have lunch with John every day. That's how close they were.
What year did Dave pass away?
He died in 1998, and this stuff was sitting in the family home. His wife is still living, and they continued to live in the family home for about 14 years, quite a long time, and the stuff was just sitting there, and they didn't even realize it. This whole auction tells a story because it's such a close personal, basically it's a large memento of being the best friend of the president, and you can see the president in different terms. So we've done it chronologically from the earliest things, from his formative years, his education, that type of thing, going into the first run for the Congress in 1946 when he met Dave, and we follow that along into the Senate races when he beat Lodge in '52. Then it comes into the presidential years when he was running for president, the inauguration, and the 1,000 days that ensues. Of course, the assassination on November 22nd, 1963, and we have the aftermath. We have about 30 years after that fact. And in all of these lots, there are thousands of things individually, and we've condensed it down to 723 lots. I'm holding in my hand one of the most prized things, in my opinion. This is the actual schedule that was Dave Powers, that he was given when he was in Dallas. He was with the president on every trip. And this was the Dallas trip, the last 2 days in Texas when they went to San Antonio and eventually ended up in Dallas on November 22nd. This is Dave's time schedule and what was supposed to be happening at the specific times. And Dave annotated it by putting in the correct times when things actually happened. And he wrote all the way down, all the crowds were happy to see Jackie, all the different types of things that were going on. He was the eyes and ears of the president. So he would be in the motorcade, he'd be in the Secret Service car in every motorcade, and he would be viewing the audience to see if they were cheering, if they were happy, if there was a protest, what was going on, what was the pulse of the nation or the country that they were in. So he would keep notes like that. So it comes down to Friday, November 22nd, 1963. Everything is going along smooth until you come to 12:30, 3 shots, 12:30, JFK shot. 12:36, carried my president on stretcher, braced to operating room. 12:52, 1 o'clock, my president is dead. 2 o'clock, left hospital for Love Field. It just goes on. And there's actually, if you flip it over on the backside, he goes into even more detail where he talks about my president is pronounced dead at 1 o'clock. It talks here at 12:35. I lifted JFK on stretcher and raced to the emergency room. And then he goes into 2:05, removed JFK from the hospital. At 2:20, helped carry casket aboard Air Force One. We actually have the photographs of Dave lifting the casket. It's really an emotional document, a real piece of history that we all know about November 22nd. And to know that this man was literally feet behind the president when this all happened, and to have this and see it with your own eyes, it brings out all those emotions 50 years later, whether if you were there or not. And we've had a lot of tears as we have shown this around. So it's really an amazing collection, it's an amazing item, and there's so many things like this that it's hard to describe each one individually. But we have things that are iconic, like John F. Kennedy's leather bomber jacket, but we also have personal things, little notes from Jackie Kennedy. We have approximately 60 notes from Jackie. We have about 35 from Senator Ted Kennedy. We have quite a number from Bobby Kennedy. We have beautifully inscribed photographs with so much sentiment and so much meaning, and it brings out the true feeling of the way the entire Kennedy family felt about Dave Powers, just like he was a brother. So it's really an amazing collection, amazing thing for us to have here locally, right in the northern Essex County. So it's really something that brings out the emotion, brings back the history, and shows us, history is alive right in our local area. 1236 carried my president on stretcher. You see all these things, and then my president is dead. To hear those, knowing that this guy was the best friend and my president, and the feeling. And you look at this piece of paper, and you can see the crease marks and how it's wrinkled and it's wearing through. It's really an amazing document. It's a moment of time that we all know, and this was right from the inception. I can show you the backside too. Okay. This has a little more detail. So from here on, again, car raced, lifted JFK, Father Oscar, tells you all the last rites, everything that happened. And look at it. So by the time, it's only 2 o'clock and he's being sworn in. 2:39, LBJ took oath of office. Pretty amazing. One of the men from one of the Russian stations was 47 years old, so he wasn't even born. But they were educated in their school systems in Russia, and that actually was an eye-opening thought to me, because they were taught all about the president, what the tragedies were, the assassination, about the children. They knew everything, and they wanted to be filmed with this stuff and having it transported back over to Russia in their own way. So that, to me, it says a lot. We're 50 years after the fact, and it means that much to these foreign countries. Paris, France was here yesterday, and they were the same way. They were totally interested right across the board. Not just the times that the president was in Paris. Of course, they were interested in that, but they wanted to see the whole formation, the young years, the presidential, and what was going on afterwards. So that's an unusual aspect of what we've found out here by having this preview for so long and having all these interests from all over the world.
Anybody here seen my old friend John? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seemed the good they die young. I just looked around and he's gone.
We're at the Kennedy auction. Now you're John McGinnis' sisters?
Yes.
I can't believe all the coverage of this event. It's just amazing.
It's truly amazing. It's been going on for weeks.
How long has this been in the making, the event?
At least 6 months.
There's how many, 700 items? Or?
There's 700 lots, but many of the lots have multiple items within the lot, so this is actually in the thousands.
And I talked to Danny and Jay. Danny showed me the schedule that Dave Powers kept on the day of the assassination. That was pretty amazing.
That was amazing. I can remember that day. I was in high school when it happened. It's when the world came to a stop for like 3 days.
I think everybody thinks that event was permanently changed the world. And I don't think everybody knows exactly why, but they just know that event did change the world.
It seemed to be a pivotal point because there was such great hope with him as president, a young president, with a young family. And when that happened, something else shifted in the world at the same time. And I think that's why this is such an emotional auction, and the worldwide press that this has gotten because of it.
Yeah, I think this is even bigger than if the Beatles had an auction. I actually think the Beatles became famous somewhat after that event occurred, because it was right after that. It's like the world needed something like that to come into being. Somebody said the Russian TV crew was here or something? Or?
It was a Russian TV 2 days ago, and there was a French TV show here yesterday. So every day there's been press both by the TV, People's Magazine, and multiple newspapers outlets as well.
Of all the items here, is there anyone in particular that has gained more attention than anything else? Is there any that are...
You know, certainly everyone talks about the bomber jacket, but I think a lot of people are moved even by the birthday card of little John, the last birthday card that was written to his father. He was probably only 2 years old at the time. But just all the pictures with Jackie and Jacqueline together, it just brings back memories to everybody.
Well, thanks for chatting with Haverhill Community Television.
Thank you.
Anybody here seen my old friend Bobby? Can you tell me where he's gone? I thought I saw him walking up over the hill with Abraham and Martin and John.
I'm with Donald Greenwell. No, Donald, are you from this area?
No, I'm from Kentucky.
What brings you to the JFK auction?
Well, I saw on CBS News the other day where they were going to have a major auction of JFK memorabilia, and I was always a fan of JFK, and I saw also that pen that he signed pertaining to the Cuban Missile Crisis was going to be auctioned, and I'm somewhat interested in that pen because I think that pen, the stroke of that pen, could have influenced history a whole lot different than what it did. But luckily, Khrushchev and Kennedy used pretty good judgment, I guess, at that point to discontinue the Cuban Missile problem. Back then, if I remember right, Kennedy was considered a hero in backing down Khrushchev. However, years later, if I remember my history correctly, it came out that Kennedy had to promise to remove the missiles out of Turkey that was already in Turkey, pointed at Russia, which was immediately next to Turkey. And I think really the Russians had some right in doing what they did. I would like to see history written from the other side, or at least see the other side's point of view. I think sometimes American leadership don't see that.
you seem to have a pretty good grasp of history. And so you rank JFK highly on the list of presidents as far as their job performance.
Yes. Yeah. But I think he made some mistakes. I think the embargo against Cuba has been a mistake. It's been a mistake far too long.
How do you think he would have handled the Vietnam War?
I think that if Kennedy had survived, we wouldn't have known the Vietnam War as we know it today. I think that was Johnson's war, although I know Kennedy escalated it. I think Eisenhower even had some advisors in there before Kennedy. But I don't feel that the Vietnam War would have been known from the same perspective today if Kennedy had lived. Could have been disastrous, but I think it'd been a whole lot different.
Any particular items interest you at all?
Well, I'm interested in that pen where he signed pertaining to the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm interested in that. Maybe a few of the cheaper items, but I like to have that bomber jacket, but that's probably going to be too rich for my blood.
Well, thanks a lot for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
When I woke up this morning, you were on my mind, and you were on my mind.
Anybody can come, the regular people in the town can buy a letter or something and have it as their,
That's great.
have it as part of their collection. So that was the big thing that the family liked.
We'd like to congratulate Danny Meter on a job well done, and good luck tomorrow for the auction. And we're all his family here to support him, and we wish him luck. We were here the other day when the Russian photographers were here, which was pretty amazing. He's become famous.
Danny deserves it.
He does.
He's one of the best in the
He's
business.
smart as a whip, yeah. He's smart, and he really knows his history.
It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
What we have in this case behind me up to my left is John F. Kennedy's Air Force One leather bomber jacket. It's Navy issue, and as you can see up on the front, you can see the presidential seal. And we have seen iconic pictures of President Kennedy out when he's usually sailing or watching America's Cup races, that kind of thing. You'd see the president wearing this jacket. When the wind was out, he loved to put this jacket on and keep himself in a nice atmosphere. So this is one of the most valuable items that we have in the sale. Most likely we won't know till it's sold, but our estimate on it is $20,000 to $40,000. So in our auction process, that was the highest estimates that we had on any individual item.
He was a friend of mine. He was a friend of mine. His killing had no purpose, no reason or rhyme. He was a friend of mine. Turn, turn, turn. There is a season. Turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose unto heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late.
This is one of the pens used by President Kennedy, shown in this picture, when he signed the document, the interdiction of delivery of offensive weapons to Cuba, which of course was in 1962's the so-called Cuban Missile Crisis. And this is one of the very pens he used to sign that document. The pen itself says the White House, the President. Remembrance of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
So they get a lot of interest from Russia? Russian.
Two different Russian crews here for two different channels. Said it would be going to, one of them, 100 million people that watch that particular station.
100 million people? So they put it, they don't have that many stations probably there.
5 or 6 stations.
There's too many of you cry. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you die. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love here today. All things must pass. All things must pass away. All things must pass.
I'm with Jay Williamson at the JFK auction, who is the cataloger of the Dave Powers estate. Dave, I can't believe the interest in this event. It's just mind-boggling, really.
It's the type of event that really, certainly John F. Kennedy captures everyone's imagination, and to think this is the 50th anniversary of his passing this year. And I think there's so many people today, particularly those in their 50s that remember and above, that remember he as president and you know, where they were at the time that he was assassinated.
Are people coming from all over the world? I think.
Yes, they are, and whether or not they're going to be here physically or bidding online via the internet, there's participation from all over the world. Others will be on telephone, and others will either fly or drive here.
I assume that there's going to be tremendous press covering this, for, you know, the event.
There is, and as a matter of fact, we have press from near and far, and just, I think this past 2 days, there was a film crew from Russia, as a matter of fact, covering this, and the interest that even the Russians would have when you think of the Cuban Missile Crisis era and things like that. There's certainly perhaps a reason to send a film crew out for that.
So Dave passed away in 1998. Yeah. And I saw the schedule. I couldn't believe, you know, the details of the notes he kept. He just kept everything. He was just meticulous about detail.
He was, and he would constantly fill in the holes or the gaps of what he didn't have, and so he'd collect things as they took place. And I think he was able even to head back in time to when Kennedy was in his youth, and piece together either his time at Choate Prep School or his time in the military.
He took a lot of the pictures himself. That's true?
He took a few of them, yes. A great number of them are done by White House staff photographers, and others are would be a self-portrait taken by Jackie and by different members of the Kennedy family. But he did take a good number of the photographs that are in the sale.
No, does Dave Powers have any close relatives still left now? Or?
Yes, he has siblings and a family of his own, and they actually had attended the preview today, and I'm not sure they're going to attend the sale, but they did come by to see how everything was set up.
Is this the biggest Kennedy collection that's up to this point been put out on the auction?
I believe it is, and that's the beauty of having something of this breadth and this scope. And there's probably a little over 3,500 objects that are going to be collected into 723 lots. And what really makes it important is the entire scope from Kennedy's earliest years before he took public office, through his presidency, and then post presidency after he was shot. And the relationship not only that John F. Kennedy had with Dave Powers, but also with the whole Kennedy family. And from Kennedy's first run for the 11th Congressional District, he was brought in not only as the closest friend of John F. Kennedy, but he was also a close friend of the family, and he'd probably be considered family amongst the Kennedys. And correspondence and notes would continue for the rest of his life between Jackie and Ted Kennedy and John Kennedy, John Jr. and Caroline.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Kennedy Library has a lot of. I've never been there, but they have a lot of objects there.
Oh, it's tremendous, and it's a tremendous resource, and it's a resource that actually Dave Powers had built, and he would constantly sift through things that he would have personally and contribute them to the library. Others would, knowing that Dave was collecting things regarding John F. Kennedy, would send them those things, and he would deposit them into the library as well. So I think one of the great things is with the sale is that because there's 723 lots and because of the breadth of the collection, there's going to be items of greater and lesser importance, but might be particularly interesting to someone who has an interest in John F. Kennedy or Dave Powers. And it's going to be the type of sale which is very accessible. It isn't, no one's really going to have to even get out of their seat. They can bid from a computer over the internet. But what's great is that there's going to be things selling for $50 and there's probably going to be things selling for $50,000. So there's going to be something that everyone will be able to take home and be affordable at whatever level that somebody might be interested in.
I think I had heard about it a long time ago. I kind of forgot, but then I was watching the news and I couldn't believe how much coverage there was of the event. I think Dan said he was on the Today Show.
Yeah, he was on the Today Show. People magazine had 4 pages just in yesterday's edition that came out. It is, and it's amazing just how it's really a testament to just how popular John F. Kennedy continues to be. And I think people are constantly thirsty to find out more about them. And even the people that know everything about them are going to learn something from what is here at John McGinnis's.
All things and what they used to be. What about this overcrowded land? How much more will you from me? Can't you stand?
The way that we were able to come up with our proposal, and the bottom line of it was, I looked him in the eye. John did his thing. We worked together on this. I don't want to make, it's not me, it's his business and everything else, but we worked together as partners on this deal. And I looked him in the eye and I said it would be my honor to represent this thing and the dignity that your father had for President Kennedy. And they knew I was real. I mean, they saw me on the, this was that important. I grew right up here. I'm 11th generation from Massachusetts, right from my own hometown. So it's like, this meant a lot to keep this here and to be able to do this for this family, for what, knowing as a kid growing up and seeing what Dave Powers, how he emulated. We have videos going right now of Dave Powers talking about the president. You see him in the office with all these things around him in his office. And you hear the love. It's like the original bromance. You see these guys, and they truly loved each other. And he represented that faithfully till his last breath. Okay? That says a lot about a person. I had Good Morning America over here, CBS this morning on the other, and I'm not kidding, every single, I'll give you 7 minutes, I'll do this, I'll do that. That's like I've had that problem before. It's like, come on. They were tough. It was tough. They wanted me to promise all this stuff and everything else. It was a tough decision, on what you had to actually do. The evening programs weren't so bad, the evening news programs, like we were just on CBS. They did a really nice job. The host of the Saturday morning program, Anthony Mason, did such a wonderful job, and there's a backstory behind that. If you watch the CBS piece that he did, so many people came in because of that, because he was so emotional. See that painting right there? His stepfather painted that. Now this is a host of, he's interviewed presidents, he's interviewed everybody. He was taken aback. We're just starting the overview, and this is for CBS Evening News. with Scott Paley. And he comes in and he was going to be covering the story. So we're trying to give him an overview. We're going to be talking. And he turns and he just stops from quite a distance over there. He sees that painting. He's like, it was like a flashback. He says, he goes over to it. He says, this is my stepfather. My stepfather painted this painting. He knew the whole backstory that we would have absolutely no idea about. And it's such a story that he was practically in tears on the program. And that is the Victoria, which was President Kennedy's favorite little boat. It was given to him for a birthday gift when he was 15 years old by his parents. He had many boats through the years. This was his favorite vessel. So for a Christmas gift, the three sisters decided they were going to get the three brothers a painting each. They were going to get him each one brother was going to get a painting each. And they actually commissioned Henry Kohler is his name. You can get the spelling on it. But they asked him to do 3 paintings, one for each of the brothers. So this one they wanted to do for Jack, for their brother, who was the president at the time. And they said, we wanted to do this, and they said he's going to be down there sailing with Jackie off Hyannis, and that's where we want you to do it. So he goes down, takes his shots, does some sketches, all that kind of thing. And time goes on. He's doing the other 2 paintings as well. He's getting the sketches ready, and they were going to come back and proof them and say, well, okay, we want this or we want that for each one of the brothers. So time goes by. The sister, and I believe it was Pat, I'm not exactly 100% sure because his stepfather couldn't remember. He stopped everything and called his stepfather at that moment. And he's got his stepfather, 85 years old, and he still paints in Manhattan. So he's on the phone with him. He's relaying this story already to me. And he says, Pat comes down. She's looking over the sketches and what he's done to that point. They're finalizing it. This is Manhattan at his gallery. Walks down the street. It's just after 12 o'clock. Moments later, came over the TV. The JFK, it was November 22nd, 1963, the day that she came. He never got that out of his head. And first of all, he was a young artist, and this was a huge commission for him to be for the family of the president. I'm doing a painting for the president. I mean, come on. So first of all, he was so excited about that. And then to have the sister right there going into the crowds in Manhattan on that moment, and he felt like he should have been there to be able to help her get through this instead of being in the massive crowds and everything. He never got over that in his life. So he stopped all work on the paintings at that point. He's like, I'm not going to continue. This will be done, right? Gets a phone call in December. It was for Christmas. So he gets a phone call. It was about the first, second week of December. And it's one of the sisters. And how is the progression going on the paintings? He was in a state of shock. He hadn't done one more thing, and they needed him done for Christmas. So needless to say, he got on he did it, and he was just so on it. While they gave out the paintings, he always remembered the story because he always felt so bad for that sister. And of course for the president and the loss and all of that, of course, at the same time. So Anthony comes in to do the segment. He sees the painting on there. He was doing a retrospective of his stepfather a couple of years ago, and he pulled out a lot of these different images and sketches that he had been working on. That was one of them. He told the story, and he had known about the painting his whole life, but this was like in depth 2 years ago. He went over this whole story with him again. And then he walks in here, and there's the painting hanging right there, and he was just like, I've known about this my whole life. I've never seen it. I thought it was just gone forever. What happened was when Dave Powers retired from the library, they had a big presentation, and Caroline had presented that to Dave. And another interesting fact was that he had gone to Jackie Onassis when Caroline sold Jackie's things, and there were 2 or 3 of his stepfather's paintings there, but it was what he was known for these presidential paintings in portraiture, but he was also known for horses in polo and that kind of thing, and there were some of those related in Jackie's auction. But this one, he just couldn't believe it. He was just like, in knowing the backstory, we would have never known that. Now, if I had gone with CBS this morning, they had promised me 7 minutes. Okay, they said, we'll give you 7 minutes to be on our program exclusive, okay? And you got to do this. And I'm like overwhelmed. If I had done that, Anthony would have never come up here. He would have never seen that. We would never get that story. Those are the kind of things that we've been hearing. And it's, I'm probably boring you, but to me, it's pretty exciting. You hear these things and it's like, you got to be kidding me. And this is 50 years after. He was so excited. He mentions it yesterday on his program, and it was so emotional. The people coming in one after, I got to see that painting. I got to see that painting. It's really unbelievable. You go around the back of it. We didn't know for sure if I knew it was presented to Dave later on when he was at the library. So we didn't know if it was done after the fact or if it was done while he was president. I take off the back, lift up the paper. There's the whole thing written out, right on there. summer of 1963, all right there. I mean, it was pretty amazing, pretty amazing. When the assassination took place, they brought Dave down. You know, they had to figure out what was going to go on. You know, how is this legacy going to? It was only 1,000 days, and Jackie was really worried that this was going to be a footnote in history. She really was. She didn't know what was going to happen. So that's when the whole Camelot, she devised it, and they all worked together to try to formulate how is this going to be remembered. And so they're doing all that, and at the same time, she comes back up here and lives in the Washington, D.C. area after the assassination. She has Dave come over to her house to have lunch with John every single day at noontime. She wanted that continuity. She wanted that man who was the best friend of the president. He had two best friends. One was Bobby, and one was Dave Powers. And when the kids were at the White House, we have all the photographs to prove it that Jackie has sent. There's Dave with the kids playing at the birthday party the day before they had to move out of the White House. There's Dave. They're cutting the cake. There's Dave opening the gifts for the kid playing. This was the closest thing to the father they were going to ever have. And you read these little notes from Jackie, and you see what this represents to this family and this person to this family. You'll see a bond that you understand why it would never be broken. Jackie seems to be worried in a lot of the notes that something might happen to her at some point. And she says, you must stay friends with my children. My children need to be in your life. You need to be with them. Because she knew that this man knew what her husband was all about. And it's pretty touching.
Memories press between the pages of my mind. Memories sweeten through the ages just like wine. Quiet thoughts come floating down and settle softly to the ground like gold of autumn leaves around my feet. I touch them and they burst apart with sweet memories. Memories of holding hands and red bouquets and twilight trimmed in purple haze and laughing eyes and supple ways and quiet nights and gentle days with you. Memories press between the pages of my mind. Memories sweeten through the ages just like wine. Memories of holding hands and red bouquets and twilights trimmed in purple haze and laughing eyes and supple ways and quiet nights and gentle days with you. Memories press between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Memories memories